Alrighty, welcome everybody. It's Tuesday night and I hope you are ready to spend a little bit of time with me tonight and make some cards with the Storybook Gnomes Suite. It's one of my favorite suites in the new mini catalog and I'm really excited about it. I love gnomes. So of course when I saw this one, had to have it. Anyway, my name is Julie Brown. I am a Stampin' Up! Independent demonstrator and welcome to my Facebook Live. Some of you may be watching this on YouTube, and again, I appreciate you. Make sure that you guys type in the comments that you're here if you're watching me live. You can also type in any questions or comments that you might have on the YouTube if you're watching that replay. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, share all that you can, because eventually I would like to be able to do lives directly onto YouTube, and we have to have so many subscribers to do that. Hey Mel, I'm so glad you're here with me tonight. So let's take care of some housekeeping, except again, ignore the hostess code. I'm so behind, guys. It's July and I still have my June hostess code up there. So ignore that. I will, I don't even think I have one set up yet. I'll get that set up later tonight and get that out to everybody. Anyway, you can order through me at juliebrown.stampinup.net. My email is juliescreativestamping@gmail.com. I have a Pinterest, Facebook, and Instagram that is under Julie's Creative Stamping. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, it is juliebrown.Julie's Creative Stamping. And always make sure you check out my blog, because if I don't show you how to make cards and I show you extra cards, which I will not be doing tonight, but if I have extra cards that I show you, I eventually will get them all on my blogs. Alrighty, so let's talk about this suite. This is the Storybook Gnomes Suite, and you can find it on page 42 and 43 of the mini catalog. There it is. And it includes all of these things. Plus, I'm going to be bringing in some the layering diorama dies for tonight's card. But anyway, it has this really pretty ribbon. Isn't that pretty? It's like ooh ah, ooh ah. You guys can do it. You can say ooh ah. It has this Snowfall Puff Paint, and we're going to work with this tonight. And I'm going to show you, not really a trick, just some suggestions. And then it's got these, you can see I've used some of them, these fine, but look at these gems. Aren't they cool? Ooh, they sparkle. So those are fun. And then it has the Kindest Gnomes, and then it has all of these dies. So it has the dies that actually cut out each of these gnomes. And then you see this paper over here? It also cuts them out of the paper. And so does this. So this paper also has a big mushroom, and it also cuts that out. Plus, it has all the little pieces so you can build a gnome. Like, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's his nose and his beard. So yeah, so you can build a gnome. Now, we're not building gnomes tonight because we're, I wanted to show you how to use the layering diorama dies and cut out some of this stuff, and then use the leftover pieces from that and create a whole other card. So let's get started, because we have a lot that we're doing tonight. Let me actually, I want to show you this paper real quick so you can see the full view of each of these papers. So this has the little mushrooms, and then this is the other side of this. So I'm going to just kind of pull it so you can see. And then we have this one, and this has all the little gnomes. And on the other side of that one is this really pretty print here. And then aren't these animals cute? Look at these. So this is one. And then the other side of that is these trees. And then we have this one, and this is the one I told you that the dies will cut these out. But there's all of the little mushroom houses. And this is the other side to that paper. Look at that scene. Isn't that cute? So cute. I love gnomes. And how pretty is this paper? This one is so pretty. And this one is too. Look how unique this one is. I'm really liking this. I haven't played with this one yet, but I'm definitely going to. So you guys will have to check back on my YouTube channel or my Facebook Lives and see any other ones that I do with this suite. And this is the one I kind of call a sweater pattern. It reminds me of like a Christmas sweater. I don't know. What do you guys think? And then it has this cute little one, again, that you can die cut. It has the dies that will cut out all of these little gnomes. So way cute paper. Hope you guys agree. All right, so we are going to get busy with our first card. And I'm going to show you some tricks with this. So I'm going to bring in this. And so I have previously, I cut out this little mushroom and I cut out this little gnome. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to cut this one out and this one out, because sometimes when they're halfway cut out or they're not all the way on, we don't think that we can use them. And I'm going to cut this one, and I'm going to show you how to use these on the card. So let me bring in my die cut machine so we can get those cut out really quick. And then while I have this in here, and it is going to be the big one today, while I have this in here, I'm also going to show you or do the cutting with the layering diorama dies. Alrighty, so I believe it's this little guy. And so I'm just going to line this up as if I was cutting out the full gnome. I'm going to ignore the fact that I'm off the page over here. And we're just going to, I guess I need to get that straight so it'll go through the machine. So I'm just going to get that one on there, and we're going to run this through. And eventually I'll be cutting out all these other ones that are on here. But how handy is it that we have these dies that we can cut out all of these cute little gnomes? And I'm going to show you how cute they are when you stamp them as well. So we have double cuteness with these. I'm not going to cut this one out right now because I want to save time. But I do want to cut this one out, and it's a different die. And again, even though it's only half of the gnome, we're going to use this one on our page today, on our card today. And I'm going to show you, and even up here, see these little feet that are sticking out? Hey, Flora. Oh, hey, Pat. So see these little feet that are sticking out? I even have cut these out, and I'm gonna be using all of these on a card and show you how cute all of these little pieces are on a card. So again, the one I'm cutting out right now was just half of a gnome. See, so I've just got like the top half, which is gonna be perfect for what I'm fixing to do. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to bring in, so I am going to use these two papers on the first card. Now on this one, I am going to bring in, and again, I'm going to explain this to you guys so you understand what I do with my dies. So if you're ever reading any of my instructions, you'll understand. See how I have these little labels that I always got to put my hand behind it. So I label all my dies, and I start with the smallest one as number 1, and then I label them all the way up so that if you guys are ever reading my instructions and I tell you it's the number 6 die, you know that I'm starting with 1 as the smallest and going all the way up. So hopefully that will help you as you are trying to figure out which die I used. All right. And so I want to kind of get this on here where it's giving me some edges. And maybe I didn't use the number 6. Maybe I used the number 5. Let me think here. Which one did I use? No, I used the number 6. This was just looking kind of small. Like it wasn't giving me very much leeway. Maybe I didn't cut. Let me just check my measurements on this piece, because this piece is supposed to be 4 1/4 up. It's the right size. It's just me tonight. Again. Oh, I know that. Okay. I do this every time that I work with these dies because I always think it's going to cut around this outside edge, and it's actually in a little bit. And so just so you guys know that these dies actually, let me show you the inside of the dies. So if you look at the inside of the die, see where the cutting edge is? It's actually on the inside, not on the outside. And so when I line these up a lot, I keep thinking it's going to cut that out, not that inside. And so a lot of times I get things lined up not the way I want them because I'm thinking it's that outside edge. So just a note with these dies. So we're going to cut that hole out. Now, tonight we're going to be showing you how to use both the negative and the positive. So I am going to set this piece aside that I'm pulling out of here, and we're going to be using this on our next card. So yeah. And even though I don't save all of my pieces all of the time, there are definitely times where you want to save your pieces, and this is one of them. All right, and then I think, if I remember correctly, I have to kind of look and see. And then I'm using the number 3 diorama die. I think I want it this way. Nope, I want it that way. You'll see why I'm being particular about which way I'm laying this down. And again, I'm just putting this on the center. Now, I'm not going to use this little piece tonight on a card, but I will definitely be using it on a card at a later time. Now, while I have all of this here, I'm going to go ahead and cut out a piece that's going to be used on our other card, our second card, with that same first die, and we're just going to be cutting out a piece of, or a white, basic white. So I'm just going to set that down. So this piece that I'm cutting right now is actually going to be for our second card. But I figured while I had this out, I would go ahead and cut it, so then I don't have to be bringing it back and forth in and out. Because like I said, I've done a lot of the pre-work, because the second card I'm going to be showing you so a little trick to using the puff paint that comes with this suite. And that's going to take a little bit of time, because the one thing I've learned with the puff paint is you have to be patient. So if that's not a word that you guys like, then you won't be happy with what I'm going to show you with the puff paint. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, I've got a thick basic white card base, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two pieces that I've cut. Now this one was smaller than the top one, and I'm just going to kind of line them up. I'm not gluing them together, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up. Oh my gosh, I think I tore that. How did I manage that? That's all right. It's going to be covered anyway. And I'm just going to lay this down in here. And I'm going to grab myself a pencil, and I'm just going to kind of outline where this is. And just on this one edge. So see how I've drawn that in? Let me see if I need to get a little closer. So I've just drawn that in. Now the reason that I did that was because it's going to help me with my placement on my mushroom. And even though I've drawn the lines in, I'm going to kind of line this back up, and I'm just going to kind of figure out where I want the mushroom. So I kind of want the mushroom kind of like right there. So now what I'm going to do is just kind of draw that little line up there. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to erase all these lines. These were just guidelines to kind of help me. So when I'm designing cards and when I'm trying to figure out like layering, I use a pencil quite a bit. So I'm going to take some liquid glue, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue this mushroom down. And for this card, I definitely stuck with the blues, the balmy blue, Pacific Point, and the Coastal Cabana colors. Okay, so I'm going to kind of look at that, look at where that is. I can erase that now because I've eyed where I want it. And now I can stick my mushroom down. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to glue these two pieces together. I'm not using dimensionals between these two pieces, but I am going to be popping it up here. And so when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you are getting glue along this inside edge, except this bottom edge, because I'm going to be sneaking in. Oh, I think I'm going to have to do it this way. Yep, I'm going to have to flip that over. So this edge right here, I'm going to put kind of glue on this outside edge. And again, you don't want to go all the way to the outside because this piece is smaller. And I'm leaving this edge open right now, but the rest of it, I'm just going to kind of get as close to this inside edge first, because you want to make sure this piece kind of sits down good. And then we're going to flip that over. And I'm going to bring in a silicone mat so I don't get my glue all over my workspace. And then I'm just going to set this on here. And it doesn't have to be like perfectly centered, because then we're going to attach all of this to the front of the card. But see how like all that little glue that was on there kind of oh gosh, was I too close? Sorry guys. I keep forgetting when I make it go closer. So sorry, there we go. So that's what it looks like. And I've left this with no glue right down here because I'm gonna be sticking a little gnome in that area. So now what I'm gonna do, because I have glue on this, I'm gonna move this out of the way. And I'm going to bring in dimensionals. Now this is the one time you're going to see me use a lot of dimensionals. I always use a lot of dimensionals when I'm working with the diorama, and it's because I want to make sure this inside part pops up really good from that back edge, because this is kind of the part that that gives us our illusion, right? Is this diorama, this inside section. And so again, I know you guys are probably going, what the heck? Because I never use this many dimensionals ever. But like I said, but when I am doing this type of diorama, I definitely want to make sure all of this on the inside is popped up really good. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to bring in the ribbon, because I need this ribbon wrapped around the top up here. So I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to come in with my Stampin' Seal Plus and run a little tape there and there. And then we are going to wrap this. And I think it's about like a ½ inch down, if you guys like to measure. Gosh, Flora, I'm glad you're here tonight. You don't get the chance to come on very often. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do is, because I'm going to be popping this up, and I've put some glue here, but I don't want this glue to accidentally get pushed down onto the card front, because I want this to stay popped up. I have this, it's almost out. I have another little thing, but I'm going to just take some baby powder, and I'm going to apply that baby powder to the part of this adhesive that I don't want sticking to anything. Because again, I'm going to be putting a dimensional, and I probably shouldn't have put it right there, because now it'll be probably hard for that dimensional to hold on. But I didn't want this to stick down to the card front. All right. So now I'm going to come back in with more dimensionals, and I'm just going to kind of get my 4 edges now. And if you want, you can put some in the middle. I didn't feel like I needed to. And this is where I shouldn't have probably put that powder. Let's make sure. Oh yeah, it's going to stick. Sometimes that powder stops it from sticking. But I do want to get those 4 corners. All right. So now I'm just going to bear with me while I get all of these papers off of this. And then we will be putting that card front on. So how many of you guys love gnomes? It's like, yeah. And I know we just had a gnome stamp set not too long ago. And if you guys have that one, it will pair really well with this one. Even though these gnomes are a little bit bigger, you can still use elements from both sets. Like sentiments, or even the, you can have like a big gnome and a little gnome. Yeah, you can't ever have too many gnomes, right? All right. So now what I'm going to do very carefully, because this is going to fit exactly. So I'm going to get my bottom edge down. And then just very carefully lay this down so that it looks like so. Now, can you see the diorama? Isn't that fun? But do you see how by putting those dimensionals, it really holds that up in that area? All right. So then what I'm going to do is I pre-cut, and this is not one that I stamped. It's one that came from the Designer Series paper. So I'm going to take this little guy and I'm going to glue him down here to this bottom right-hand corner. Isn't this paper beautiful? I'm just in love with the paper. Okay, so he's just going to sit right there. And then remember that gnome that I cut that was just a partial gnome? So this one is going to fit kind of like he's peeking up. He's been hiding, and he's just going to kind of peek up from right there. And I actually don't want, I think I want him to be down a little bit more because I want some of that door to show. So maybe I need to move him over. Yeah, we'll move him over. So on this one, I'm going to bring in a mini dimensional and put it right up here at the top of his head. And then we're going to do the glue down at the bottom. Because you always have to be thinking when you're using stuff that is popped up, you have to think about how to keep everything level. So because this dome's head or hat, this gnome, oh my gosh, me and my words sometimes. So now when I push that down, it keeps this little gnome level, right? So cute so far, yay! Okay, so then I pre-stamped and embossed, and then I used the deckled rectangle dies. That's this set right here. So I use this set to do this. And again, I'm just going to be putting some mini dimensionals. And because I'm going to be straddling this ribbon. This ribbon is actually quite thick. Once you get it, you'll see that it's actually quite thick. It's a really pretty ribbon though. I really like it. So I'm just going to get them at the corners, and basically what I'm trying to do is set my dimensionals so that that ribbon will just go right between. So we're going to bring this in, and it's going to be like so. Let me hold it up so I can make sure I'm getting it straight. Then we're going to tie a ribbon. Now I will tell you this ribbon is a thicker ribbon. And so tying a bow, even with my bow maker, is a little bit hard because it's thick. Anytime we have thick ribbon, it's a little bit harder to tie the bows. But again, I'm going to show you how to use my bow maker. Hopefully, I'm showing you guys enough that you will remember. So you just lay it all the way across. I'm working with these two legs because these are where I'm doing a smaller bow. So when I talk about the center, this is the center for the two small legs. This is the center if I'm doing a large bow, which probably would have been better with this ribbon. So I just kind of wrap it around the legs, and then I go up through the center, and I pull this down, and I bring it up, and then I'm going to pull this over, and I'm going to tie it. Now, there is something that you need to do here, because you'll see there's white on the back of this ribbon and no design. You want to make sure that when you're pulling this, that the white side is up, so that when I take this off, and I am pulling this really tight, I don't know if you guys can tell, but when I take this off, then all of the stripes are on the front, and I don't have like that white side showing. So now I'm going to come in with, and I'm probably going to be using a few glue dots, and we're going to stick this here. And I'm going to position those legs kind of where I want them. So I'm going to get that on there first. Then I'm going to take another glue dot and kind of lift this leg up. And I stick that right underneath there, and that gives me the ability to kind of move this where I want it so that it lays the way that I want it to lay. And especially this side that's kind of twisted a little bit. Again, I'm just going to stick a glue dot right there, and then I'm just going to kind of turn this and lay it down so that it attaches the way I want it to attach. Oops, didn't quite get that where I wanted it. All right, so there's that bow. And then, of course, I'm going to trim it. And if you guys like long, you can leave it longer. Just use more ribbon. So there's that so far. We're going to come back and finish the front, but I want to show you the inside. So for the inside, I'm just bringing in a piece of Pacific Point. You guys know me, I don't, even though this is thick, basic white, you could stamp right onto this, but I always like matting things. I just think they look a little bit better when they're matted. Now that is 4 by 5 1/4, and you guys know that I pre-cut a bunch of basic white pieces. So I'm gonna have to bring in my cutter, because I always pre-cut them to 4 by 5 1/4. But because my mat is 4 by 5 1/4, I'm going to go down a size. So I'm going to go to 3 3/4 by 5 with this piece of white. And then I'm going to come in. I'm going to line this up. You guys can't see this, but I guess I better get this up where you guys can see it. I have little lines on my sheet here, so I always line that up. And I am going to come in with Pacific Point ink. And we're going to, so the outside says Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And then on the inside, I'm just going to stamp this Warm Wishes. I think this is one I just recently re-inked, so I got to be real careful. I'm trying to look up and see if it's straight. I hope that's straight. Ah, pretty good. Okay, so we're going to put Warm Wishes. And then remember that other little guy that was kind of on the edge, who was part of him was kind of cut off. Again, this is why I tell you, especially when you can cut out images from the paper. So remember him, so I cut him off that edge, and so this whole side is kind of missing. But that's okay, because now I'm going to glue him right in this bottom right hand corner. Let me bring in my silicone mat. All right, and so now I'm just going to line him up all the way to that right edge. And voila, right? So it looks like he was supposed to be cut off. So see how you can use these little pieces that you think are not usable because that wasn't a full gnome, you know, because basically his, what would that be? His left arm was missing. Oh goodness, where did I get that? Well, I'll have to figure out something to fix that later. Wow, how did I get... Ah, always, guys, always. Dang it. How did I manage to get that ink? Well, I will have to come in and stamp some stuff and do some fun stuff there to cover that up. So I'll just probably bring in some decorative leaves or something a little bit later to fix that. All right, so then to finish this off, I'm going to bring in those really fun jewels. And we're just going to put one here, and then one kind of down here, and then a smaller one up here. And then I'm also going to bring in one here and a smaller one right there. All right, so there is our first card. Hey, Shanine. So what do you guys think? So I used the diorama dies, and and basically, guys, I did very little stamping on this because I used the die cuts to cut out these images from the designer series paper. The next one is not that way. So there's the inside with our little guy that was half cut off, but we can use him on edges. We also could have brought like a little, and I may actually bring one up here and stick where I got that. Oh my gosh, look, I got it there too. What a hot mess I am today. So yeah, and another way you can cover this up is you can take another piece of Pacific Point and cover this whole side up if you do what I just did and get ink everywhere. So do you guys like? So there's card number 1. Okay, so card number 2. Alrighty, so this card, remember this piece that came from the last card that I cut out? And then I cut this piece out. So what I'm going to do is I am going to line this up, and I want to kind of leave about a 1/4 of an inch edge on this, okay? So again, I want to make sure I get this edge. And it's really important on this one that I get this edge really good, and you'll see why in just a second. All right, so we're just going to lay that like so. Now, I have already, on the next one, I have already stamped and colored in. Look how cute! So this is the stamp set now, right? So I used this big stamp set, or this mushroom, and I used this little guy holding the lantern. And I stamped them in black memento ink, and then I colored them with blends. Stinking cute, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece, and I am going to, oh, I need to be bringing in my silicone mat. And now I'm going to actually come up here, and I want this, I'm going to attach this, but not all the way to the top of this card. So again, remember, we're using all of the pieces from what I cut out of the other card. So now I'm just going to turn this over, And I'm going to bring this in so that it sits like, I think I want it a little farther up, but it sits like so. I'm going to push that down. And then I have some paper snips, some older paper snips that I use for when I'm cutting through glue so that I don't mess up all of my paper snips. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut that. And it's important that you cut it like I'm cutting it, because again, we are going to be using this piece that I'm cutting out, we're going to be using in just a hot second. I'm showing you how to use all these leftover parts and pieces. Susie would be so proud of me, right? I have a lady on my team that is really good at using all of her little parts and pieces. So we're just going to trim that. And just so you know, there's two ways you can clean this. You can let the glue dry and then just like rub it and it comes off. Or you can take a baby wipe and clean off the glue. These silicone mats are really handy. I actually have 4 because I'm always misplacing some, but I use them all the time. All right. So this is what we have so far. Cute, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece and I am going to add it to a Poppy Parade back. And then we're going to use some puff paint, ladies. But be patient with me. This does take a little bit of time because you have to be patient with the puff paint. Oh, come on. I'm actually going to stamp the sentiment before I do the puff paint, because once I get the puff paint on there, it's harder to get the sentiment. Oh, what happened there? Oops. Okay. All right. So then I'm going to use that Warm Wishes, and I'm going to bring in some black Memento ink. And like I said, if you're just tuning in, you didn't miss me coloring all this. I colored this ahead of time. And that's going to be stamped right there. All right, are we ready for the puff paint? The puff paint can be difficult. And I should have put a little bit more adhesive along this. When you're using the puff paint, you want to make sure anything you're going to be heating up is secured down. And so I probably did not put enough adhesive right there. All right, so I'm going to bring in my heat gun. So it is going to get loud, and I do apologize for that, but I just wanted to show you guys. And I think what I may do is just do a little bit of this and then show you the finished card so that you can see what I did, so you don't have to sit here. So this puff paint, let me find another piece of paper. I want to show you. Here's a little, well, that's white. That's not going to be helpful. Okay, here's a, so this comes out really fast. Do you see how fast? I mean, it's like immediately. I don't know if you guys saw that. Let me get closer. Let me move this over. So it's like you barely tip it and it's already coming out the end. And so this can be problematic for when you're first starting to use this. Now, this card looks super cute with this white edge, but I wanted to put the puff paint on there. If you don't have the puff paint or you don't want to do that, that's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with, and I'm going to just kind of spread it, but I'm only going to move in little sections at a time. So here comes the heat gun. So be patient. I got to let it get hot. And then I'm going to actually hold this not real close at first. I'm going to hold it, I'm holding it pretty far away, and see how it's kind of starting to move. because I don't want to blow that liquid where I don't want it. So did you see that? You got to be real careful. So I'm just kind of turning this, and I'm keeping my gun like pretty far away. And then as it starts to puff up, you can get closer. So can you see it puffing up? And then you move in closer. Okay, and then what I do is I just kind of, like, I'll push that in because I don't want that to be, and I do kind of push it down a little bit. And then I'm just gonna come in and just kind of pull this where I want it. But you see how big globs come out like right away? And so again, I'm going to be far away, and then I can see it start moving. And so I'm just gonna kind of keep the heat on it until it kind of quits jiggling. Far away though, I'm far away. And then as it starts to quit jiggling, I can come in and it puffs up. So do you see how that works? See how it puffs that up? Oops, I got a little piece right there. That can happen. And so what I do is I will go through and I'll get this whole side done. And then I'll come in and I'll fill in these little tiny areas where it didn't fill in. But notice how I keep kind of pushing it down, because I do want it to be puffy, but I also want it to fill this area. So I'm going to see if I can show you how to do this, because this is the hardest part, is bringing some back in, because that was a big old glomp right there. And this time I'm going to spray it to the opposite side so it stays off that blue part. And again, I can bring it in closer as it stops jiggling, and then it puffs up. And you'll be able to see like the wet spots. But see, it'll really puff up. See how it puffs up? Okay, and so then you would just work your way down along this edge and finish putting that puff paint in there. So I'm going to show you the finished card so that I'm not keeping you forever tonight. But I just kind of wanted to show you that trick. Sorry, went the wrong way again. I hope that was helpful with the puff paint, and I'll be finishing this when I get off with you guys. But I'm just going to continue around that corner, but then I also did it around this bottom edge here. And so let me show you this card when it's all finished. So see how I just continued down, and I didn't even care that some of the white showed, because it's still cute. And then see how I kind of left a little area like he had shoveled the snow from his front door, and then I colored that in with blends. And then I did take some Wink of Stella. I don't know if you guys can see the sparkle. Let me see if I can get it. And I painted the snow with Wink of Stella to make it sparkle. And there you go with the puff paint. So I didn't want to make you sit and watch me go all, because you can see how you have to be patient with the puff paint, and just take your time and go. But the reason that you want to get these edges down is because when you heat it up, it starts to lift this part. And so remember I told you to keep this other piece that we cut off the top. Let me show you what I did with that. So I took this piece and I just came in and I applied that to the bottom for the inside of the card. And I put the Merry Christmas. Now look at what I did here. I took my crumb cake and I just highlighted the words. And I highlighted those X's with the balmy blue. And I did that on the front where it said warm wishes. And so what I mean by that is, so here's my one that I just did. I am going to come in with my light crumb cake, and I'm going to use, yes, I'm using my tip. So let me bring it in so you can see what I'm doing. And so all I did is I just kind of barely touched some of these areas with that crumb cake just to give it some fun interest. So see how I did that with the words? Whoops. Well, if I can center it for you guys. Oh my gosh, what a... So that's just kind of another way that you can like stamp in black and then give it some dimension, is by adding the crumb cake to that. So yeah, the puff paint gives it a really fun dimension. Alrighty, ladies, so there we go. There's our 2 cards. And remember, I used what I cut out of this one to make this one. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I keep going the wrong direction. And I've got glue on my hand, so there we go. So there's my 2 little gnome cards. And I hope you love them. And of course I added in the dimensions there. So this one was stamped and colored. This one I just used all of the pieces that were cut out of the designer series paper. So yes, do we like the gnomes? I hope it's going to be on your wish list. So how cute are these 2 cards? And you guys saw how quick this first card went together. All I had to do was cut it out. And so basically, I just want to show you, I did take some time to just like take one of the designer series paper and just cut out a bunch of the gnomes. So now I'm just ready to make gnome cards. And see, here's the little feet that I cut out that I'm gonna add to a card. So fun stuff, right? And again, layering diorama dies. So this is the suite. So if you want to put this on your wish list, Storybook Gnomes Suite. And with that, you get the designer series paper, the gnome dies, you get that puff paint is part of the suite. You get the ribbon and you get the gemstones. So there's a ton in this suite. And then if you're just interested in the bundle, that's the Kindest Gnomes bundle. And then I did bring in the layering diorama dies, and then I don't have this one up, but then I also brought in the deckled rectangle dies. So there you go. All right, ladies, I hope you enjoyed that. I just had to play with the gnomes. I was gonna wait for a while and not do any Christmas cards because it's still July, right? But I have a lot of my team that is doing Christmas in July card, but I don't ever do my Christmas card class until December. And I'm looking at possibly doing it either November or December this year. So if it is something that you're interested, please let me know, because I do fill up very quickly. I have limited space for that. And for those of you that are watching me online, but you're interested in doing a Christmas cards with me, I'm coming up with an idea for that as well, where I can send you all the kits, and then I will walk you through online how to make the cards. So should be fun. So I've had some requests from people who aren't here that would like to do the biggest thing. Just so you guys know, Stampin' Up! Has a rule for all of us demonstrators that we are not allowed to stamp any images and send them to you. And so I am going to try to find a way to work this out so that we can get something done with those of you that aren't here. So anyway, I like to try to make everybody happy. I know I can't always make everybody happy, but one last look at those cards. There you go. Everybody have a great night. I appreciate your time. Please make sure you share this video, like it, bells, whistles, all the good stuff, and it will be uploaded to my YouTube channel in just a little bit. So everybody have a great night, and I will see you next Tuesday, and we're probably going to be doing some more Christmas in July cards, just because this kind of got me into the Christmas mood. Christmas is going to be a little tough for me this year, but it's good that I'm kind of thinking about it ahead of time. So anyway, guys, have a great evening. Love all of you guys, and I appreciate all of you. Talk to you soon. Bye.